Most Central Americans would take a U.S. Border Patrol agent over immigration authorities in Mexico and how they're treated in Mexico any day.
Okay. And how long does it take to get from Honduras to the Mexican border for the U.S.?
Well, the boy I write about, Enrique, it takes him 122 days and 8 attempts, and he travels a total of 12,000 miles, just to give you a sense of what these immigrant children are willing to do. And that's what I hope to convey, not only to humanize immigrants in the book, but to convey the determination of people to make it to the United States. I think people who talk about building walls don't understand this level of determination on a cellular level. Americans don't really get, that people are willing. I saw people who had lost legs and arms to the train who healed somewhat and would get back on that train and would continue north. I don't think many Americans understand that.
Right, so it's not just going to be a taller wall or more border patrol. We're going to have to impact the countries from which they come, aren't we?
Well, what a lot of people along the rail say is that politicians have been feeding us 3 solutions for decades now, either an amnesty or greater border enforcement or a guest worker program, and that all 3 approaches, the studies show, have only led to increasing levels of illegal immigration. And what people along the rail say is that you have to attack this at its source in terms of the poverty that's driving people really out of only 4 or 5 countries that send about 80% of the people who come to the United States illegally.
Right. We were talking about this as a group at the college here, and we said, what are the solutions? And it seemed like economic development, that the poverty was the driving force, and that if you didn't impact poverty in that home state, people would still seek. And in fact, it's an admirable quality, right? It's an admirable quality to want to better yourself. And if you can't do it in your home state, in some ways these are heroes because they have done everything they could in order to make a life better for themselves or their children. Like the woman in this story, the mother is Lourdes. She comes, she has her own pain, right, of leaving her children.
Absolutely. I mean, she's tried everything to be able to feed these children. Her husband has left her for another woman, and she's trying to feed these kids. She goes door to door selling clothing. She sells cigarettes and gum from a dusty sidewalk in the capital of Honduras. And she can only feed these kids once or twice a day. She can never buy them a toy, never buy them a birthday cake. And she can see that they're going to have to drop out of school in the 3rd grade to help her survive. And like any parent, she wants better than that. So many of these women talk to me about how their children would cry with hunger at night, and their cupboards were bare, and they would fill this big glass with water with a little teaspoon of sugar and mix it in and give that to them to try to fill their bellies. And I wanted parents here in the United States to think about, what would you do if you were faced with such a choice? If you knew that you had this option of coming to the United States, you knew it was illegal, you knew it was wrong, but your kids were hungry at night.
It's a devil's choice.
What would you do? That's right. And I think many Americans might make the same choice, particularly since the United States has had really a schizophrenic policy on immigration. On the one hand, we say, don't come, and we put Border Patrol agents at the U.S.-Mexico border, but on the other hand, we've had an open policy of hiring illegal immigrants in this country and many companies welcoming them as cheap, compliant workers.
That's right.
See the full interview at www.calvin.edu/innercompass.